Okay, doing a bunch of lighting tests today, and the first thing to do would be to show what the room looks like without anything. So this is the house lights, and yeah, yuck. So first thing to do is turn them off. Yeah, arguably better, to be honest. So the first light I'm going to try is this LED panel, and Jesus, oh my God, that's very bright. So let's turn this way down. Very direct, very harsh. Harsh in terms of the quality of the light, but also harsh on the talent. Like this is not comfortable to have shining in your face. I would never do this for an interview setup or a talking head, but worth putting on anyway. That's really bright. All right, so that's now with the included softbox on it at least, and that's actually kind of impressive, the difference just that makes. It does take out a lot of the light. I've had to boost that to, that's 100% power now, and it's bright, but it's doing a much better job. We could actually try and soften this up a bit more. We're going to bring this all the way into our frame. Okay, so I brought this closer just so that the source of the light is bigger and therefore softer. I don't know how much of a difference it really made. This is still a small light, but quite powerful actually for what it is. And now this is with the umbrella attached, and yeah, this spreads the light out way more. It's a lot nicer in my opinion, and this is actually just because this is what I've had available. This is what I've used as a key light for like 3 years now, but this is at 100% power. So if I have anything in the background that I want to kind of expose alongside, that's pretty hard with an output like this. And the other downside is that you have no control over the light. This is spilling everywhere, which is not usually a problem. The type of stuff they have to do here at the university is not moody or high contrast or anything. So lighting up the subject as well as their background is not usually a problem. But a little bit more control would be nice. So I have some more stuff to try. Okay, so this is a new light of mine, an actual COB light. Bare, this is back to being extremely harsh. This is only 30% power, so this has plenty of juice for something like this. Depending on if you're going for something more stylized, maybe this is what you would want, but typically not for an interview or a talking head, at least for the type of stuff that I tend to do here. But also, again, for the comfort of the person on camera, this is straight to the eyeballs. So let's change that. This is actually quite wild. This is the exact same power output of the light, just with the Hyper Reflector attached, and I can't even look in the light's direction. This is still 30% power, but I'm getting beamed hard. So let's take this all the way down. So I think something like this would be the correct exposure if I was using this setup, and we are down to 4% power on the light. It's still very direct, it's still very harsh, but interesting to see just how much output that reflector adds. Damn. Okay, and now we're back to something a little softer. This is now with I think a 90 centimeter softbox attached. This looks a lot nicer straight away. You know, very soft, but a lot more controlled than the last one. There's a lot less spill kind of going everywhere for a similar result. And for not moving the stand at all, this is the same output as the LED panel through the umbrella at 100%. But this is only around 35, so we're getting a lot extra juice and a really nice result for a setup like this. So yeah, very happy with that. So I've now added a grid to the softbox, and this should give even more control for where the light is pointed while keeping the light soft. I'm not sure how much of a difference this is going to make in this example. I'll need to go back and watch it when I'm editing this, but a good test to do nonetheless. So just for interest's sake, this softbox has 2 layers of diffusion in it, one that's right in front of the LED and one that's covering the front of the fixture. So I've now taken out the inner one just to see if that dramatically changes the quality of light now that the LED is only being diffused once rather than twice. I can't tell too much of a difference right now, but I'll be interested to see how it looks in the edit. Is there a big difference between the inner diffusion being in or out? Okay, back to having all the lights off. I now want to test this backlight. And you can see the kind of separation that would give, especially, right now wearing a black t-shirt in front of a black background. With it off, I would kind of disappear into the background. With this on, only 19%, it gives a nice little separation on the shoulders and on the back of the head. I would maybe position this a little differently, but for now, yeah, not a bad example. And now if I'm switching back to just the key light and then adding that hair light in, we can kind of see the difference that makes. Off again, on again, and see how that makes a difference in combination. Starting to get quite bright, like with adding that in, it's adding a little bit of exposure kind of to the side of my head here as well, which I don't know if I would want. Yeah, and I think even just moving it back just a tiny bit has made just a slight difference. And now, I don't know, I often haven't done hair lights or kickers or backlights, whatever we want to call them, just because of the kit that I have had available. It's usually a lot easier with the time restraints that I'm in or the locations that I'm in, maybe small offices or labs or whatever, just to set up a key light and work to that. But with the footprint of that backlight, I feel like it could be pretty useful actually. So bringing in the tube light to where the COB key light was, I do have to blast it to 100% just to get this exposure, but it's not as harsh as I thought. I feel like we're probably just getting similar results to the LED panel, to be honest. And in a tighter situation, the LED panel through an umbrella is maybe still the way to go. I'd actually be interested to check the wide shot and see how much of a footprint difference there is between the LED panel through an umbrella versus the COB in the softbox, because they ultimately still fit on a stand. The great practicality with this is that it's battery powered. And even at 100%, I feel like I can run this for a decent length of time. And this can be plugged into AC if needed. But the fact that this is battery powered and can still give me a pretty good result, yeah, I'm interested in this one. Let me try another thing. So now I've brought the light, the tube light, even closer to soften it up a bit. And I have to say, this doesn't look half bad. I think in a pinch, this would work. And this isn't a bit of a dramatic situation with like a black background and everything, but if I just needed an additional bit of light to not act as like the kind of theatrical key light that I have going on here, but just a little bit of a punch of light to bring exposure of someone up if a space is already fairly well lit, I feel like this could work quite well. And I am interested to see how this would look diffused. So let's try something else. So this is obviously not a very professional looking setup. And I wouldn't normally want to diffuse something this way, but I have seen some really good videos online seeing tube lights being diffused by putting a pool noodle over the top. So I want to try that, because even this, which this is just the softbox fabric, just kind of draped over the top of the tube here. So there's no distance from the light or anything. It's kind of being spread downwards a little bit. This looks quite nice. This is still at 100%. You know, this isn't going to compete against Windows or anything like that. But this is all right. This could work well, I think, in tight spaces, in somewhere where, you know, you just want to carry a backpack, and I could stick this light in a small bag. Battery powered. Yeah, this actually is very promising. So I'm glad I did this test because this looks quite good. So kind of getting experimental again. This is now the tube light in exactly the same place that it was, but now vertically mounted instead of horizontally. And this is again a kind of dramatic again. We're getting kind of harsher, shadows across my face again. But yeah, I was interested to see what this would do because holding it sideways wraps the light around the face more, giving you a much softer effect. Where putting it up and down is obviously going to give you that very directional kind of split. Almost like if you had like a crack in your curtains or something and light was coming through that way. I'd be interested to try one more thing. So one test that I thought that would be interesting is to have the key light, the big light is back, the softbox is back, but to use the tube light as like a harsh edge on the same side. Often you would see, as we tried before, the key light with a separating edge light or hair light on the other side. But I thought if I did it the same side as the key, would you get a soft fill with still like a nice sort of harsher edge down the side? And I think you can see there what it's doing, especially on my shoulders here, down the side of my face. But if I toggle it on and off with the big powerful key light on, yeah, that is adding something. I think I could still play around with the position of it or the power of it, but does that add something interesting? Let's even take down, I don't know if my exposure is probably all off now, but that's something I'd be interested in playing with. Maybe in a really tight close-up, that would be quite a nice thing to get like a separating edge. Having soft light and hard light coming from the same direction feels natural, strangely. You have the direct light of the sun, which is very, very harsh light because it's a tiny, extremely powerful light in the sky. But light ultimately bounces everywhere. So you have the harsh light of the sun, in which case our harsh light is our vertically mounted tube light. And then our bounce that would be coming from the world around us comes from a soft key like this. So I actually think that this is a setup that I'm going to try more often. Trying to think of any other setups that I haven't done. One more. I've just been kind of blown away by how much extra output that Hyper Reflector adds to this light. So here's a reminder of what that looks like. That's so bright. Okay, this isn't a setup that I can see myself using too often, but on occasion I have to compete with a back window that's being blown out, which is why I intentionally bought a light that's brighter than the LED panels I was using before. But if that Hyper Reflector can add tons of output, maybe that's a good option if just simply the light through the softbox is somehow still not bright enough. Can I beam the Hyper Reflector through a diffusion panel? If I was to use this, does this still give me a decent soft result with a lot of power? And I feel like that might be what's happening here. Obviously there's less control. The spill on the background would still be evident. This is only at 37%. That's given me what I think is quite a nice result. We're not super soft. I could maybe increase that more if I wanted to. But I think in a pinch, this is not bad. And just for interest's sake, there it is at 100%. That can get really bright. Cool.